Hello guys, and welcome back to our video tutorial. Today we are going ahead with IP version 6. That will be I can say the beginning of the CNA semester 2, because it was supposed to be part of semester 1. It was supposed to be discussed in semester 1, but I wanted to make sure that you guys understood IP version 4 clearly before I can bring you to IP version 6, because otherwise it will be a little bit confusing for you guys. So IP version 6 is a replacement, it's a foreseen replacement for IP version 4 because of, well, so many factors that we come across, and then we explain those factors, and then we'll know why we need to migrate from IP version 4 to IP version 6, and how is the world with IP version 4 and IP version 6 transition at the moment, and what are some of the mechanisms that are put in place in making sure that there is a smooth transformation from IP version 4 into IP version 6 technology. So let's move from right here, and we'll talk about IP version 6 address types, DHCP, and stuff like that. So that's it. So IP version 6 is 128-bit long, unlike IP version 4, which is just 32 bits long. With IP version 4, we just have a limited number of IP addresses. That's like 4 billion, and the world's population is larger than that, if I can remember. So if we have a lot of people using IP addresses, or one person can use, let's say, 4 or 5 IP addresses in a single room. So if this happens, we are going to lose a lot of IP addresses. So it means that we are running out of IP version 4 addresses. It is depleting. In other words, IP version 4 is exhausted in many countries since 2011 April. So in some parts of the world, it has exhausted in 2012, like in Europe. But in Africa, we're just getting rid of IP version. We just exhausted just recently, 2019, and in Iran, that is in the Americas, I think. So those ones, they have exhausted 2015. So for the LATNIC, that is the Latin America, they got rid of, or they got exhausted in the use of IP version 4 since 2014. So therefore, those people have to migrate to IP version 6 quickly, so that their device, because now we have Internet of Everything, we have so many issues on the ground, everything almost use IP address, so we have to work on getting something bigger. So with IP version 6 address with 128-bit gives us about 340 undecillion. We don't exactly know. Some people are saying that this can solve any problem. So I'm not saying that this is equal to any a grain of sand on the ground. Actually, I'm sure that is an overly exaggerated statement, but I can say that we have a lot of IP addresses that are available with IP version 6. A lot of them. Okay, I can say that each person can have hundreds of IP addresses, and they will still have some left. So I can only say that. I cannot say, because I don't know how many grains are on this of sand on the earth, so I cannot tell. So it adds some enhancements like address auto configuration. So that is what IP version 6 address has over IP. So it brought that new enhancement called the address auto configuration. So we have IP version 6 is needed, one, for rapid increased internet population. Like I said, everything that use IP address, our cars, our gates, our refrigerators, our fans, our AC condition, our air conditioners, they all uses IP address. So in that case, we cannot be using IP version 4, okay, because the address space, it does not even cater for the people, talk less of the materials or the objects that we are talking here in concern. So IP version 4 is depletion, is really going out, is exhausted. So that's why we are now bringing IP version 4. I'm sorry, IP version 6 to the net for the tech world. And there are the issues with NAT. There are a lot of issues with network address translation, which we were going to talk about when we come to the chapter in, I think, semester 3 or 4. So we'll talk about NAT there clearly, and then we know what NAT is about, network. So what it does is that because we have private and public IP addresses in IP version 4, so the private IP addresses are not routable over the internet, and then the public IP addresses are not usable over the local network. So you need to have the private addresses being translated into the public IPs, and then in that case the private IP addresses are hitting from the public network. So we have some additional things, that is Internet of Things. Now, like I said, our refrigerators, gates, everything is now using IP address. The cars, the aeroplanes, everything is using IP address. So in that case, we need to go with IP version 6. So what are these migration techniques that are used in IP version 6? We have 3 migration techniques that are put in place. We have dual stack, which a lot of people did this, because I could remember even in 2012, I could remember before I traveled, I heard that QCell started migrating to IP version 6, and they started with dual stack. And what dual stack does is that you have in existing network, you can you can put in IP version 4 and IP version 6 on the same network segment. They will coexist and without affecting each other. So packets that came through IP version 6 will be using IP version 6 route to communicate, and those that using that came up with IP version 4 would use IP version 4 routes to communicate with other route devices that are on an IP version 4 segment. That is what dual stack is. So you can see here that every device here in this network here is using is using both IP version 4 and IP version 6. And the middle one here is the tunneling. Tunneling is a process that is used in encapsulating IP version 4 and IP version 6 packets into each other. Let's say, for instance, in this case, both options are going to work when you're dealing with tunneling, because you're going to have to be dealing with dual stack plus tunnel, because tunnel cannot be existing if you do not have a dual stack in place. A dual stack will be that the routers that are the core of the network must have both IP version 4 and IP version 6 configurations. But now what happened is that the public side of the network, you can have an IP version 4 network there, and in your private networks you have IP version 6. So in that case, those IP version 6 addresses, I'm talking about the middle picture right now. So if I can look at here, I think I have something right here, so I can just look at that tunneling right here. So let me just do some drawing so that you guys can see exactly what I am trying to say. So what I'm saying here is, this is your IP version 6 network. Okay, that's your IP version 6 network, and that also is your IP version 6 network. But if you look in the tunnel here, you are using IP version 4 address. Okay, so this is exactly what I'm trying to say. But now these routers are at the core of the network here, so they must have IP version 4 and IP version 6 configuration in them. So in that case, this router will route the IP version 6 route networks into IP version 4 right here, and then that IP version 4 will now reroute those traffics using IP version 4 into this router using IP version 4, and then when it comes here, this router will now route those traffics to IP version 6 right here. So that is exactly what I am trying to explain, right from the IP version 6 network domain to IP version 4. It will be encapsulated inside IP version 4 right there, and then that route IP version 4 packets will now route the traffic into IP version 6 again. That is vice versa. So that's exactly what I am trying to explain right from there. Okay guys, so I hope you understand that part of the thing that I am trying to explain. Alright, so let's continue. So the last bit that is not non-existent in a lot of countries and in most part of the world is the translation. It is something that was not to come for a very long duration. It was just there so we can have the translation between IP version 4 and IP version 6. So it allows those IP version 6 enabled devices to communicate directly with devices that are using IP version. So in that case, you do not need any dual stack or any tunneling. That is just direct connectivity between IP version 4 devices and IP version 6 devices. So we continue. So we have IP version 6 address is represented